The most important weight I've ever lifted is a pair of 2-kilogram dumbbells. So I just posted my full origin story of how I started getting into lifting, all of the false starts, all of the setbacks that have happened in my life along my lifting journey, along my fitness journey. And it got me reflecting on one specific moment, and that was the moment I drew the line, the moment I made a decision to take back control of my life, of my circumstances. So in 2021, I dislocated my shoulder 5 times. And I thought for sure that was the end of my ability to lift weights ever again. It really mentally took a fucking toll on me. You know, it was peak COVID. Lockdown was crazy. I was a courier, already doing 80-hour weeks, and that just compounded everything. And over the next year or so, I stopped caring. I stopped looking after myself. There was zero self-care, no self-trust, no ability to actually give a fuck about my life. And I caught myself in the mirror one day. I was like 107 kilo or something. I was like, fuck, when is it going to be enough? And in that moment, I made a decision. I didn't know what I was capable of. I didn't know if my shoulder would have held up or not. I was already struggling. So, the last time I dislocated it was literally lifting my arm underneath the weight of a pillow. So I didn't know what it was going to do when I lifted any weight in the gym. But I said to myself, how about you try and find out? Because where you are right now, that's no life, and that's definitely no life that you set for yourself. So that's what I did. I joined the gym again, went back, and I just started with 2-kilo dumbbells. I did that for 4 months, rebuilt my shoulder from zero. And here we are now, 3 and a bit years later, and the consistency is unlike anything I've ever experienced before. See, I used to think consistency was 5-6 days a week, every week. And the truth is that being consistent and being perfect are two very different things. And there are definitely moments and seasons in life where perfection is achievable. But for the most part, life doesn't work in long stretches where you get to do everything that you want. For the most part, it's starting and stopping and starting again. But what I learned was in those stopping moments that my issue was never falling off. My issue was always disappearing. See, when it got hard, too hard to hold, when I couldn't execute the way I said I wanted to, in that moment, when I would fall off, I broke that perfectionism, and I used the self-talk in those moments, the negativity. See, I knew you weren't capable. See, you'll always do this. That old identity piece, the one that I had been trying to move away from for such a long time. Whenever I'd fall off, that shame took over. And it meant that I wasn't able to return quickly. The only thing I was able to do was hide, numb out, cope, distract myself, and ultimately disappear. And so the issue is that every time you do disappear, you end up having to restart from zero. I know I lived that cycle for 14 plus years, man. And every time I had to restart, it was harder than the last. Not because I didn't have proof that I could do it. There was many times where I went and made a change and saw good results. But because every time that I fell off and then disappeared, I ended up reinforcing that old identity. And every time that old identity became stronger and stronger. So very simple. Every system I tried, every workout, every fucking influencers, perfect, whatever, made me feel worse. So what did I do? I went and built a system. A system that allowed for falling off. Honestly, expects falling off. I built a full doctrine around it. You know, most online coaching literally builds the perfect program, calories, macros, check-in structure. I used to think like this too, right? You have everything there, why aren't you executing? Well, seasons are different. Life is different. Emotions. Sometimes it's things outside of our control. Our kids getting sick, work gets busy, whatever it is. So then I realized it wasn't about information. It was more about the execution. And more importantly, execution under friction. So I built Calloused. Calloused for me is very, very simple. The goal for Calloused isn't 10 kilos in 10 weeks. It isn't to become the optimal version of yourself. It's very, very simple. We measure 2 metrics. 1, how long you stay in between fall-offs. And 2, how quickly you return when you fall off. Because the truth is, if you want to live a calloused life, not perfect, but calloused, it means always moving forward regardless of what is thrown at you, what's put in front of you. So if you can learn to stay longer and return faster, then ultimately that momentum, that continuity, that compounds over time. And it leads you to becoming the version of you that you can be proud of. It allows that identity piece to settle. It allows the gap between the behavior that you're currently doing and that old identity to actually shrink. And it gives you proof that you are who you say you're becoming. This life, I've learned, is not about being perfect. It's about moving forward even in the hardest moments. And sometimes you just need to lower your cadence in those moments. Not your standards, not your expectations of yourself, but understand that there are certain seasons where just maintaining where you're at is the win. So wherever you're at, no matter how deep into that dark place you are, no matter if you're struggling, if you're battling, no matter how many times you've fallen off before, at any time you can draw a line, protect your floor, stay in the game, become calloused.